Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And Maricel, thank you so much for talking today with me about a very common topic that will hopefully help a lot of people, which is stress and mindset, right? And pretty much everybody has some type of stress in their life. And really, when I think of stress, I like to think of like we are on a body of water and we get to adjust our sails as stress comes, right?
Mm,
So it's how we
yeah.
navigate the storm on the body of water, for example, right?
Oh
How
my
do
gosh,
we navigate the wind?
that's the most important skill for a person to slow aging and stay healthy because stress is really, in fact, impactful in your health. And I think that especially getting closer to the holidays, it gets heavier. So if you have stressful environment at work or at home or with yourself, I think that it gets a little heavier when we reach important holidays or dates or birthdays or things like that. So that's why I wanted to talk to you, Terry, because I think that it affects to everybody. And let's start by just sharing. Maybe is there a way that you cope with the stress during holidays?
Oh, for sure. One of the things that I do is I have a stress management framework, actually, to help with this whole topic of stress management. And it's really three key things: manage your mind, release your emotions, and choose a calming behavior. So, managing the mind is really about managing the thoughts that come through. And whenever I have an unpleasant type of thought that comes through my mind, I've gotten really good at reframing that into a gift or opportunity. So find a more empowering thought. If there is a negative thought that's coming up, oh, I have to have the Christmas season coming up and I have to do all this extra work. How about the opportunity is, hey, I
Mm.
get to be involved with a lot of things during this holiday
That,
season.
yeah, that happened to me. And you described clearly one
Yeah.
of my reframing things because as Christmas starts, like late summer, my kids are like, Mom, it's Christmas soon. Can we start playing Christmas music? And I will get into panic mode because to me, Christmas used to be like, oh my gosh, I have to set up the tree. First, get the area clear, declutter, clean, and organize, and then bring the tree and all the ornaments and do the whole thing. And I think that was in the past something that was very stressful for me as a mom. A friend of mine would say that's homework for moms. But
Mm.
then I started involving the kids in the process. And I was able to reframe, like you said, reframe that into the opportunity to do something with them that we do together. So they bring the idea, oh, they connect. Okay, it's time to set up the ornaments. And that's something we do together. That's a tradition at home. So they can eventually one day associate that with a good experience and a celebration. And it's like passing and the sharing. It doesn't stay with me only. So that's why I was
Yeah.
able to reframe, like you said.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. In fact, over the Christmas break, my daughter had brought a friend home, and this was the best time because when she came, my daughter and I and her, they put up the tree, like they decorated the whole tree. And then I got to put up the little village. And it only took us a couple hours, whereas if it was by myself doing all those different things and decorating the house, and my daughter, she just took charge and she started decorating things, and I was just like, yes. And they also helped with Thanksgiving dinner preparations
Mm.
too. We started doing that on the Wednesday before, and it was just so nice having a daughter who's now 19 years old and just more adult like and just wanting to contribute. So that was really a nice change. It really relieved me. So just like you with the delegating with the kids, it's more instead of delegating, I think it's just more of involving. And when we get the kids involved as we should be, we want to do that because it helps them feel connected with us when they're contributing to whatever it is that you're doing. Like when I was little, I remember one of my responsibilities over at my grandma's house was to always set the table. So that was my
Mm,
job. And I didn't think of it as a job. It's just something that I got to do. And that's with the way I've lived my life is how can I make everything that I do more fun? So it doesn't appear to be a chore
right.
or a job. So that is the one of the things that I would encourage anybody can do that is how can I make this event or whatever I have to do into I get to and how am I going to make it fun?
Yeah, the other thing that helps me to reframe those stressful moments is
Yeah.
it's gonna sound a little dramatic, but it works every single time. So whenever that little voice, the self-sabotage comes in and say, "Oh, you have to go to that party," or "Oh, you have to send out these Christmas cards," or whatever, right? Whatever we're like, having that heavy or stress immediately I created this algorithm that say, oh, how many people do you think would love to be in your shoes right now, to have that
Mm.
luxury of that problem? Then I start remember friends who pass away or people that I know that I'm far from each other. And I start counting my blessings. And that helps me immediately. It usually takes me a few moments to reframe my problem into no, don't give life, universe, don't give this problem to someone else. I want it because I want it. I feel like special having that problem. Like you said, it's a reframe from having a situation that is hard to deal with, transform into an opportunity to be grateful because
Yeah,
many people would die, would really give anything to be in my situation. Right?
absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. When I think about what you just said, I just think about when I was a kid and seeing the commercials this time of year on giving to the children in Africa and how they
Mhm.
were just so grateful to get a bowl of porridge every day, those kind of things. And then it makes everything just fall into perspective.
But here's the other need, nutrition need that we need for our soul. And it's not just the food for poor people, because you might be rich, but if you don't have self esteem, self worth, and if you have thoughts like, why bother? Why would I set up a Christmas tree, for example? It could be other things. I'm just saying this because it's our tradition here. Do it for you, for yourself. Celebrate it and develop cultivating the ability to do homework, do things for yourself. It doesn't matter. You may be not having kids in the house anymore. You may not have people over, but do it for yourself. And,
Mhm.
we need to recreate our skills into joy creation just for the sake of because we can, because it's our moment and because it's for us and we deserve it.
That's so true. And it is the littlest things that mean a whole lot to us.
Mhm.
Really, a kind word to me goes a very long way. And that to me, that is, if we all just looked today, one person to just have a give a compliment to, just one, just start with one person. And then eventually other people will do the same, and then you have this huge ripple effect of everybody being more complimentary to each other. So it's really Like you said, it's just very looking for those opportunities. Right.
Absolutely. When you give, you
Mhm.
receive, right? Even that my own daughters are teenagers, they still here and there they say, Mom, thank you for filling my bucket. They start reading when they were younger. And it's true. It doesn't cost you additional effort, or I guess it's a little effort, but it pays so much that is totally worth it.
Yeah. This Thanksgiving, we had a conversation about savoring. And I don't know, but this is another thing that you can do to help any thing have more joy in your life so you can savor the experience. And this is how it works. For example, let's say you are planning to go somewhere over the holidays that you're really looking forward to. So you start talking about it, you start talking about what you're going to do when you get there, all the activities that you're going to do, and you're having all these conversations about it. You're looking online, you're getting excited, and then you actually go. And then while you're there, you're just taking in everything and all your senses. You're making sure you're tuning into your smells and your sights and your touch, and you're listening to the different sounds in that, and you're just savoring the moment and savoring the time that you're there to me. And then the savoring continues because now, let's say you've taken so many photos of your vacation or your trip,
Mhm.
and now you get to come back home and relive through those pictures and
Yeah.
then share with other people what you did. So that it's just lengthening that whole event,
Yeah.
right? So that's what we can do for certain things that bring us joy. We can learn to savor things longer. And this actually is one of the key habits of the happiest people. They have learned to use savoring as a way, like even when I was just drinking earlier, this cup of hot cocoa. And by the way, in my hot cocoa, it's just water and cacao. And I love chocolate so much that it actually tastes really good to me. So I'm just like was savoring it as I'm talking to you. I'm like, oh, this is so delicious. And anyways, and it was nice and warm. I was noticing how, having it in my hand was so warming. And I was noticing
Yeah.
how the cacao just makes me feel so relaxed. And yeah, so just taking a little moment like that too, and you can just savor it. And like I just shared with you what I was doing. So now I'm extending that little
Mhm.
joy by sharing it with you.
I love,
Yeah.
love, love that. I learned this from a person who recovered from stage 4 cancer. And he
Mm.
taught me this technique that I basically adapted to my own ritual, which is basically at the end of the day, you start like scanning what happened in the morning, what happened during lunch, and then what happened in the afternoon. And then your goal is to find moments of joy. So it's like a treasure hunt that you scan your day and then you identify those little moments. It could be interacting with your pet or other people or yourself or whatever happened, or that moment in the movie that you were watching that really reminded you someone you love. So collect and then create that place. In my case, it was my journal, to just create a list of all those moments, because that way, in that library of joy little moments in your daily basis, actually help you make them, transcend the moment. And what I mean is that you probably remember that movie Upside Down. Remember the collection of memories were like spheres, like balls piled up on a shelf. So it's a graphic representation of how we store our memories. And imagine each one of these balls being one of those joyful moments of your day, and getting access to them, either by, if you use a journal like me, you can read them later when you're like, oh, I'm draining my energy, I'm not happy today, I don't know why, whatever. You just go read your journal, or have access to your library of joyful moments. And the moment your brain remembers, it's like getting one of those spheres and basically pour the content in your brain. Your brain does not discriminate between reality or not reality. But the fact that you experience that, and the fact that it's stored probably with a label that said, oh, that was the moment that I shared a beautiful interchange with my neighbor, for example, or my dog or my daughter, then you relive that. And in your physicality, you drain all of those endorphins and serotonin, and they neutralize cortisol. Because cortisol, which is the hormone that we release every time we are stressed, affects so many pathways. But when you reactivate those joyful moments, you start releasing those neurotransmitters that neutralize the effect of cortisol. So that's why it's so important to understand first why stress is not good. It's good for 1 second, but not to stay there longer. And two, what are many ways that we can simply cope with this stress that comes every single day? Nobody is immune to that. How can we cope with that so that we can reduce the impact on our health and our lifestyle?
That is so true. And when you were talking, I just was reflecting on how important the power of the pause is
Mm,
when we are feeling really stressed. That can be so powerful. Just taking a moment to just pause, recognizing, first of all, hey, it feels like I'm getting stressed, or it
mhm.
feels like something's happening in my body where I'm gonna explode, like I can feel it coming on. So first step is, okay, recognize that's happening, acknowledge it that it's happening, and pause. Like, we don't need to project any of our what we're feeling onto another person, right? We do not want to. A lot of people think they can, and it's okay to completely yell at somebody when they're feeling stressed, and that's going to increase the cortisol level in that other person and make their central nervous system
Yeah,
on fire as well. So we don't want to do that. We need to be mindful of our behavior because it's contagious.
absolutely.
So the power of the pause to me is so good because you can take just that moment and take some deep breaths,
Mm,
do some diaphragmatic breathing, and then go back to, okay, I'm feeling my blood starting to boil or whatever in this moment, or and then just take, that's my cue. That's my cue to myself that I need to take a break and do some type of release in that moment. So maybe I start to put some music on it and do some dancing to change my mood, or I love listening to comedy. So that's one of the things I'll go to my comedy group and then just listen to a video that makes me laugh, because laughing to me releases that. And I'm just like, in life you take the good and the bad, and if you can laugh at all the things that
yes.
are going like in crazy mode at the moment, it just makes it all the better, right?
Gosh, absolutely. To me, it's about, yes, awareness for sure.
Yeah.
But it also helps when you understand the consequence. Like I remember before, I didn't have a good economy of stress in my life. And I would get offended or I would get sad because I was usually far from my family. I'm from Argentina. I lived in many countries. I live in Brazil. I lived in the East Coast. To me is another country. But anyways, so holidays for me were always bringing me nostalgia and sadness and all of that, until I learned how stress is affecting my physiology. And that's when I started to think I need to optimize this and be smart about it. Because, for example, you and I are helping clients to improve their metabolic health. And one thing that happened recently to a client is that she was really trying hard to eat in a way that it won't spike her glucose because she was afraid to become pre-diabetic. Anyway, so we were working on a plan, and one day we saw a huge glucose spike that at first it was at night. I thought it was just a matter of noise or sometimes that could happen when you use a biosensor. So as we were reviewing the things that happen around, she's no, I didn't eat anything. I skipped dinner that night, and she had a huge spike. And then she told me what happened. And she got into a panic attack because she was driving back home at night and she thought that someone was following her. And she didn't feel safe until she got home. And then she felt better. But when you see in the dashboard and you see the way that glucose was spiking, is pure consequence of a release of cortisol. So the bottom line here is if it's night and you're done with dinner, so from nutrition point of view, it's not going to spike your sugar, but you get into an argument with your husband, with your friend, or you watch a movie that is violent, or you read a serial killer book, whatever gets you stressed, well, guess what? It's going to make you release cortisol. And, that cortisol is going to create a glucose spike and you're going to go to bed with inflammation that night. So, is it worth it? I don't think so. And if you want to read the book or watch a movie, do it earlier, right? Wait 1 hour after that before going to bed so it's not active, that glucose in your bloodstream that creates so many bad things. So, anyways, my message is manage your stress, learn techniques to self regulate, calm yourself with whatever works for you, and do it because it's worth it. Do it because otherwise you're altering your circadian rhythm. So, sleep is going to be impaired, metabolism is going to be impaired, aging faster for sure, and then recovery time if you're prone to get injuries. It complicates things. So why having that on top of everything when you have the option to manage in a way that, yes, thank you, stress, for the message, but I'm going to manage the way it impacts me.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to teach my clients too is the Sedona method
Mm,
for releasing those emotions
yeah.
that we might be perceiving as unpleasant. Things like frustration or feeling powerless or feeling anxious and
Mm,
welcoming those feelings. So, first of all, there's a 5-step process for releasing emotions. And the
mm,
first one is just to welcome all of your feelings. Don't try to suppress or repress those
mm,
feelings. Acknowledge that they're there, they're part of the human condition, they are
mm,
messengers for us. That's
mm,
it. Okay. And when we welcome in the feelings, identify then how we are feeling. So just verbalizing, oh, I am feeling this, I am feeling that way. What a
mm,
great way to role model to your children how you deal with your stress in a healthy manner. So then, next thing is after you identify how you feel, then you ask yourself, okay, could I let this feeling of whatever it is
yeah.
go? And you can say yes or no, doesn't matter. And then the next question you ask is, would I let this feeling go? And then the last one is when. And there's an
Mm,
entire video on this called Letting Go, the Sedona Method, if you want a very comprehensive insight into the method. But it was for people who were being victimized by their trauma
yeah.
every day. And it really helped them to understand that they were in control actually of the thoughts and they
Mm,
can reframe whatever those events were to make them more into more empowering thoughts, first of all, but then to just let those feelings go. Their feelings are just little visitors, right? They're little visitors and they're little messages, but we don't have to hang on to them. We can just take a minute and go through this process. And the one thing that I like about this particular method as well is that it allows us to use the method with somebody else. So if you are seeing somebody who is having a hard time regulating, you can just say to them, hey, are you willing just to welcome in the feelings of frustration right now? And help them to identify that and then ask them the questions. Would you be willing to let frustration go just for now? And then would you, after the could you, would you, and then when, and then you can just do that whole process with somebody, and it has a very calming effect. Sometimes you need to repeat the process to really ensure that you've let it go because it might come up again, and then you just repeat it. But the
Yes,
more
and
you practice
I'm
it,
a testimonial for you, Terry. I remember I was going through something really stressful, and you were so kind to offer me that mini session of releasing those emotions. And I remember we did it together, and you helped me go through the whole questions, and I felt so much better after that. And I remember sharing that with my husband. We were both feeling the same heaviness when my daughter was getting into college this last summer.
mhm.
I remember you help us. So I would say if you're listening to this conversation and you are curious, let Terry help you. And how can they get to you? How can they book a session to release stress with you, Terry?
Sure. So they can just simply go onto my website at Terry Total Health, and I have a button on there that says schedule a complimentary self-care session. And anybody is welcome to do that. You can also find me on Facebook at Terry Rahman or LinkedIn and just message me. And also I am on Instagram as well. So those are some avenues. And how about yourself, Marisol?
I'm thinking that to go along with the topic we're talking, I think that I'm going to offer a complimentary saboteur assessment, which
Mm.
is I'm going to share the link. It's a very quick assessment people take online. It takes about 5 minutes. And then once you get the result, then you can schedule with me for a session where we go over those results. And at the end, people get a good sense of their saboteurs and how that is impacting their life in many areas, relationship, health, and performance at work, especially in terms of stress. What are the saboteurs that are stressing them? And then they get to understand not just the impact in their life, but what are the things they can do, because each person is different, and what can they do to lower, to weaken the impact of the saboteurs that they have.
Yes, I know that's what you're talking about was is positive intelligence, and it's
Positive
really
intelligence.
about it being emotionally intelligent. And one of the things that I love about what you're saying is because anybody can do this. And when I did the that particular program, it was like a huge aha in having a framework and to be able to be like, catch yourself by
Yes.
saying, oh, there's that perfectionist coming out, or oh, there's that high achiever coming out, or oh, there's that judge. And then just to be able to identify it. And then when you're able to identify those saboteurs, those are just 3 of the 10, then you're quickly able to adjust. When you're able to identify, you can quickly switch over to, okay, now that I've identified it, I don't want to stay there very long, so I'm going to go over here so I can start feeling better quickly. It's not that you're just repressing those things, it's really about a shift. And one of the best things that Shirzad said, which is going to stick with me until I die, maybe even longer, is that everything is a gift or opportunity. And so that's how I've been
Yeah,
able to, and I'm sure this is for you too, but look at all the things in your life as gifts or opportunities for something. So it seems on the surface maybe like a, oh my gosh, this is so bad. But a lot of times there's some type of gift, there's something that's in there that you can learn that's going to help you become stronger. And that's what really what resilience is all about, is having these experiences in our life and then growing from those.
I love that. Absolutely. Yes, this program is fantastic. It helped me and my clients transformational results like in 2 months. But yeah, this the invitation is open. So either send me an email. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. So just let me know if you are interested to learn about your own saboteurs or if you would like to release stress, book a consultation with Terry. These things are complementary and we will help you identify what would be something that fits your needs. And I hope this was valuable for you. I hope you have everybody here have good holidays and hopefully with less stress.
Yeah, beautifully said, Marisol. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to talk about this very important topic that's near and dear to all of our hearts. And thank you for the work that you're doing and all the valuable lives that you're touching by spreading all this very important information and giving that opportunity to for people to really take a deep look at how they can improve their lives.
Absolutely. Thank you also, Terry. Thank
Mm.
everybody for being here. So bye for now.
Bye for now.